At this point, if you're sure your site is ready, you can upload it to a web server. So what we want to talk about is how you can go about configuring a web server inside of Dreamweaver and how you can upload your files to that server. Now, for those of you that don't have hosting space or don't even have a domain name, I just want to quickly point out how you would go about getting those two things. What you would do is go out to the web and find a company that provides those services, domain registration and web hosting. Now, of course, depending upon the scale of your website would ultimately dictate what company you should go with. But if you have a small business and a small site, you could get away with a service like Namecheap. It's very inexpensive to register a domain name, a couple dollars. What you would do is search for the domain name that you want to make sure that it's available. If it is available, you simply register it. Once you register it, you should also opt for a hosting package. A hosting package can be very inexpensive as well. Obviously here, just a couple dollars a month. And depending upon how busy and how large your website is, would ultimately dictate what type of hosting package you should go with. Now, if you have a large website, you may need something like a dedicated server, which is a server that you rent inside of a data warehouse. But again, for smaller sites, probably for your first site, you can get away with a shared solution, which means you have a portion of space on an existing web server. Now, if you work for a large company, there's a pretty good chance that they have their own servers, and you could be in the same building as their web servers. So there's a variety of different ways that you could ultimately get hosting. But I'm just assuming that I'm speaking to someone that's just going to set up a site for the first time, whether it be for a small business, a personal site. If that's the case, you can register a domain name, find one of these shared hosting plans, order it, and once you do both of those things, the hosting company will email you specific instructions on how you can go about connecting to your web server. And once you get that information, you can come back to Dreamweaver. And inside of Dreamweaver, what you'll do is go to the Site menu, and from the Site menu, you can choose Manage Sites. There's another option, of course, from the Files panel. Right now, we're in the Dope Trope site. You can come down and choose Manage Sites from there as well. This is going to open up the Manage Sites dialog box. As you can see, you can have several different sites configured within Dreamweaver. For our purposes, we're going to come over and select Dope Trope. Then you want to click this little pencil icon to edit the currently selected site. Then what you'll do is come over to the Servers category, and from here, you can go ahead and add a server. Now, in some situations, you may have more than one web server, which may seem odd, but some companies have what's called a staging server, which is a live web server that only you can access, but it allows you to test the site in a real-world situation. Then, of course, you'd have your production server, which is the server that the world can see. If you're working off one of those shared hosting plans, you will only have one web server. What you'll do is click the Add New Server button down here towards the bottom, and that's going to open up a dialog box. Now, in most situations, you're going to be connecting using FTP, and the port that you're going to be connecting through is 21. There are, again, situations where you may have to change this information. In the case of Namecheap, if you actually use that service and they send you an email, and this is the case for just about any hosting company, GoDaddy, whatever you decide to use, they're going to give you the FTP credentials, which is an address, a username, and a password, and potentially a root directory. All you have to do is take that information and plug it in here, click the test button, and Dreamweaver will make a successful connection to your web server. At that point, you can go ahead and click Save, and Dreamweaver remembers all that information, so you don't have to log in every single time you want to interact with the server. Now, in my case, what I'm going to do is connect through a local network. I actually have the web server I want to use here locally in the same office. So what I can do is just click this little folder icon and browse to that mapped drive. There's a file called Dope Trope Server, and there's a directory called www, which is the root directory. I'm just going to go ahead and select the Dope Trope Server and click Choose or Select on Windows. If you want to type in the web URL, you can do that. You'll notice that there are some advanced options. These advanced options come into play if you're working with a team of designers. You have the ability to enable file checkout. You can enter your name and email address. And what this means is anytime you're working on a page, that page will appear as a checked out page within the Files panel for any other user on your team. This essentially allows you to avoid any problems with overwriting files. You know that someone's working on a file, so you shouldn't touch it until they upload it and check it back in. Again, we don't need that functionality, so I'm going to deselect this. If you're building a website that uses a server-side technology, you can come over and choose that server model here in this drop-down menu. Once you're happy with your settings, you can come over and click Save. Once you click Save, you will see that server inside of this list. If you need to edit this server for any reason, you can click the little pencil icon again. In this case, I'll probably give the server a name. This is just for you to be able to identify what server you're working with. I'm going to go ahead and just call it web server. Then I'll come over and click Save. You'll notice that it's updated here. Like I said, you could have multiple servers here, one for remote, one for testing. If you want to remove the server, you can highlight it and click this little minus button. And of course, you can also duplicate the existing server. Maybe there's a different directory on that server that you want to be able to quickly access. So that is the server setup. Come over and click Save. You're returned back to the Manage Sites dialog box. Go ahead and click Done. Once you click Done, you'll have the ability to connect to your web server, which is exactly what we're going to do in the next movie. And I'll show you how you can manage your files from the local side and the remote side.